Welcome back, everybody. I'm honored today to have Mark Carpenter, aka Lift Stone Not Iron. Right away, I just wanted to ask you, you train completely in nature now. What led you to get here to this point where all of your training is outside? And what has the strength training journey been like for you up until this point?
Yeah, so it's definitely been a process. I mean, when I was in second grade, I was doing 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups 2 to 3 days a week. Right? It was always something I was interested in as far as I think that's just a passion that Jesus put inside of me. Um, so got into training. I think probably the way that most of us did. I'm 46, so we grew up, and I'd assume you did too, watching Arnold and Lou Ferrigno and Franco Columbu and all those guys. So bodybuilding was kind of the journey for me, right? That was what started it. Um, I didn't know that you could do strongman. I mean, you would see people on TV doing that, but I didn't know there was an amateur division. But even when I was bodybuilding and reading Muscle and Fitness and Muscle Mag and all these magazines and trying to figure out what actually worked, um, it was something I've always been scared to lift heavy because I really do struggle with self doubt.
Mhm.
On am I actually capable of doing this? So I enjoy pushing myself on that and trying to step into that world of, is this something I'm capable of? So even when I was bodybuilding, I always enjoyed lifting heavy.
Mhm.
Um, got into strongman. I competed so I did two bodybuilding competitions. Then fell in love with strongman because I always enjoyed the performance side of things. But I competed in strongman for about 10 or 11 years. I had a blast with that. Just awesome people, really, really
Yeah.
encouraging people. But there was always this kind of, for lack of a better term, kind of call to the wild. Um, and it would be sprinkled throughout my training. So no matter what I was doing, I would always enjoy hiking, being outdoors, especially in the cold and the heat, and really testing myself. And one of my really good friends, Sean Brooks and Ori Barnett and Sam Rogers, who has since passed away, but they introduced me to natural stone lifting because in strongman you'll do Atlas stones.
Mhm.
But I loved in strongman when we would actually every now and then we would train with natural stones. So I went with Sean and Sam and started doing natural stones and completely fell in love with it. I feel like it really. I know primal is kind of a hashtag word right now, but I feel like it wakes up something primal inside of you. So that it was just an amazing thing. And I think about 2.5 years ago, I asked myself, can I do all my training outdoors, right? Can I do everything outside? Um, and yeah, the answer is yes. So I try to mimic whatever I do in the gym. I try to see if I can do that outside with logs or stones or using a vine to tie something to a log and drag it or whatever it is. So I love the creative process that's necessary when you're outside. Um, I think that's something that we miss out on when you walk into a gym and everything's set up for you. So I love the necessity to be creative and to just ask yourself. I think that's a healthy thing to ask yourself. Why not? And what
Yeah.
if? Every time you train.
Yeah.
And I think that in many ways it enhances results, but it also keeps us young. I think that's something that we kind of lose that imagination as we get older. Life can kind of get heavy sometimes. So I think it's good to hold on to that creative process and include it in your training.
I like that you touched on that because that was actually going to be my second question. I see you out there. You're not just lifting stones. You're also making these contraptions where you're setting different logs on top of each other and doing these cool
Yeah.
moves that no one else has probably ever thought of. And do you think that creativity is a missing link in many people's training programs?
Oh yeah, yeah. For me, the part of being outdoors and the creative process again, that's as much mental health as it is physical. I
Mhm.
absolutely, I don't want to use the word crave, but there is a peace that I get from being outdoors that is unlike most other things in my life. I love going out there. Well, like I said before, it's always been sprinkled, right? It's always been something. And one thing that I will say is many years ago I started volunteering with a group of at-risk kids, and one thing that we would take them on a canoe trip to the Boundary Waters, to
Yeah.
northern Minnesota, Canada, on like a 60-mile canoe trip. It's amazing, right? So you're literally pooping in the woods. The
Yeah.
water is drinkable in the lakes. I mean, it's just this a pristine, amazing area. And the challenge, the emotional and physical challenge of being out there is just, I mean, you can make it as hard or as easy as you want, but we pushed pretty hard. We did that for 8 years.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to see the kids get through that, but also ourselves. I mean, it was a huge challenge, really, really, really tough to do, and that really turned me on to what can we do out there and how hard can we push. So yeah, when I built those, so that was to jump back on that, to build those things, the contraptions, the squat rack, right, out of logs and stones. It it oftentimes comes from I'm trying to do something and that just won't work.
Hmm.
So, well, here's a tree that's already down, and here's a stone that's kind of sharp. So maybe I can use that like an axe and cut the rest of the tree off and drag it up the creek a ways and do this. So it kind of evolves as I'm doing it, oftentimes through trial and error. So, like the one time I did do that squat rack, it was kind of a pendulum squat. Um, I went out there for something totally different. That is not what I went out there to do. But what I wanted to do didn't work. So 3 hours later, I had a homemade
Yeah.
nature made pendulum squat with a few downed trees, logs, and some river stones that I could use, and it worked well. It worked really well. But the part that I really enjoy is setting it up is the oftentimes the harder part of the workout.
Hmm.
Right. So when you get to the end and do the exercise, oftentimes on things like that, it's actually harder setting up the entire squat rack or whatever it may be. So it's a process that I thoroughly enjoy.
So I saw in that podcast I watched, you mentioned that you sometimes had trouble with worrying too much about staying balanced in the gym, and how and how lifting
Yeah.
natural things helped you break away from that. Would you say that compared to when you used to train in the gym more, now that you've actually been outside of the gym lifting unbalanced things, odd objects, you're actually more balanced than when you were worried about it?
That's actually a really good question. Yeah, I would say so, and certainly more emotionally balanced because I would drive
Yeah.
myself to a really, really negative place on that. Anyone who's when I used to work out in the gym, anyone who's worked out with me would tell you how um, I'll use the word OCD. I think people overuse that, but to a very, very bad degree that every both arms had to feel the exact same. And what if I did,
Mhm.
more repetitions on this arm than this arm? And it just got to honestly to an unhealthy place, and to the point that I didn't enjoy it that much.
Yeah.
So the fun part really was that I like pursuing performance. And outside, yeah, stone and natural stone is not even on weight, right? The grip is going to be different. One side's going to be pulling more dominant than the other. Maybe one side's balancing more than the other. And there's so much freedom in that because you know that going in. Um,
Yeah.
although I will do like I just literally got done training with Bryce actually, so
Nice.
that's why my shirt still has chalk on it. I think I've got a little blood on my arm somewhere, but
Nice.
but like sometimes afterwards I'll do a little bit extra on one side of maybe a one-legged balance, like stiff-legged deadlift kind of thing out in the woods, or maybe a Bulgarian split squat with one leg up on a log kind of thing. So I'm right side dominant. I'm right-handed, and oftentimes if you're right-handed and right foot is your lead, the left leg will actually be certainly better balance. Like if you're kicking a football or kicking a soccer ball and you kick with your right foot, you're balancing on your left leg.
Yeah.
Right. So
That's true.
oftentimes the least dominant leg is going to have better balance and sometimes more strength. So there's still certainly a degree of, hey, this leg feels like I worked it more, so I'll do a couple little things out there, but it's way less than what it used to be in the gym because that's it's one of the great things, and I think that's the way that God made our bodies is they're not symmetrical left or right, and we're not meant to be.
Yeah.
So
Hearts off center.
yeah, yeah, you're right, exactly. So I think for me, there's more freedom out there when it's like this is an expectation, is you're just picking up a stone, and it's not about did I get a pump in both arms or both legs. It's about how far did I move the stone, and did I do better than last time, or did I get what I was coming after today?
Yeah. That's do you so you don't feel any less balanced since you started doing this stuff?
No, no, no,
Yeah.
no. I
Yeah.
think what you said, I actually feel more balanced, honestly. When I tried to do the one side, I think I overtrained it. Like when I was in the gym, if I did one side more that I thought was lagging, I think I actually overtrained it. Maybe it would shrink. You're right, or from overtraining, actually you would lose some strength or endurance in that. So I really think we're in a very digital age, and I think that's okay in some things. I do think we're overthinking, or I believe we're overthinking things a lot when it comes to training. This is not downing apps. It's not downing people that either build apps or use them or sell them. I think it's fantastic. I personally, just for me, I don't need to watch to tell me if I'm recovered.
Yeah.
Right. Because they're all based on averages, which is fine, and it's a wonderful thing. But I do think we should listen to our body. I think we should learn what that actually feels like when you're recovered and what to do when you're not fully recovered. Maybe go do something gentle. Like I'm on right on Instagram, so I'm not going to down social media. I think there's great things about it, and there's some negatives. But things like hashtag no days off. I'm like, no, no, that's not good. That you need to rest. Like you need to let your body recover. And every day doesn't need to be Olympic effort. It's okay to go out and just move. Like Bryce oftentimes does. He and I, they're the babies.
Oh yeah, sorry.
We no, no, no. It's just part of the family. Um, but Mondays are traditionally a very, very heavy day for both him and myself. And Wednesday, we go out and just do a very gentle hike with light movement. And that's great for strength, for technique, for skill, for recovery. So every day doesn't need to be this monumental effort. I really think it's just move quite a bit. Sometimes do some really hard things and sometimes do some pretty light things. And that's good for mental health too. Because when you're doing something really hard, you know that you're taking an emotional whooping that day.
Mhm.
And I don't think we should do that every day.
Say you've been training hard for a couple weeks and you're feeling kind of run down. Um,
Yep.
do you have any go-to exercises maybe that you like for when you're trying to keep it light? Do you focus on weak points, doing things like trying to strengthen your biceps and your hamstrings, or do you you just like to stick to hiking? Because I've seen that's something else I liked about your training out there is you're not just you're not just picking up stones. You're not just creating these awesome structures. You're also taking stones and doing leg extensions. You're also doing these little things. How much do you focus on that, and do you have any favorites?
Yeah, if I'm not feeling recovered, mostly I just eat Chipotle. No.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
valid.
I'll do like a small movement. A leg extension is a good example, putting a stone between my feet and doing those. My go-to is I love grip work. I think people undertrain their grip a lot. So I like to do, with Bryce and I did some grip work tonight, actually, just picking up different stones and maybe toss them around and do things like that. I'm really, really, I think deep breathing is very, very good. Um, and so just diaphragmatic breathing, I think that's very, very positive for your body. I think it calms you, and I think that's good for recovery. The one thing I will do in the gym is I'll sit in the sauna. So I won't do any exercise in the gym, just where I'm at. My goal is to never work out in the gym ever again. It's ironic that I'm a trainer, but I want to do all my workouts outdoors, but I will do the sauna in the gym. I'll sit in the gym and sauna, and then I will stretch in the gym. So if I'm feeling really beaten up, I'll do kind of a stretching mobility day, and then also just sit in the sauna. I think
Okay, yeah.
I do think some of the cold weather stuff that Bryce and I do of getting in the creeks when it's cold, I do think that's very good for recovery. So sometimes it's not so much the movement, but maybe the environment. So really hot, a hot shower, sitting in the sauna, really extreme hot temperatures, or really, really cold, just being out there in that. I think that that's really good for recovery as well.
Another thing I heard you mention was that you like to embrace the challenge that's presented to you. I think the example you gave was if it's really hot, rather than putting on a t-shirt and shorts, why not wear the sweatshirt and
Yeah.
the pants to embrace that challenge? And I see
Mm.
that with the way you train because I've tried to pick up wet stones before, and it's very difficult. It makes me not want to lift them almost because I feel so weak and I have to use half the weight. But it's almost as if you go out there and you embrace that. You're looking
Yeah.
for those challenging stones to lift. You're in the actual river
Yeah.
digging for stones out of the sand or whatever's in the bottom of that river and picking it up and then walking through the water. I guess that kind of goes back to doing difficult things. But what do you think you gain from that? That has to give you something more than just going to the gym and lifting. What do you think you gain from putting yourself in those difficult positions?
I would definitely say grit and like I said in the beginning, I really do. I struggle with belief in myself as far as physicality. It's something that I mean, I've lifted consistently for I'm 46 now, for 33 years, since I was 13 years old. It's always something I've really enjoyed, and I feel like that I know that Jesus has used that lifting, whether it's in the gym or in the woods, to really help me through life. Um, One is I appreciate the lift, the outcome when there's an emotional process to it. And for me, going out in the creek where it's really cold and there's snow, shirt off, that's a very emotional process. It's scary. Honestly, it's very, very scary, and it takes a lot of to get fired up for that. It hurts. It hurts badly, actually. It takes quite a while to recover. I would say even emotionally from that, and but it also brings a lot more meaning to the lift that we do. So you complete a stone lift, and it's one thing if the stone was dry and sitting right there in the land, which is great. Those lifts are fantastic.
Mhm.
But it really, really, when you go on an emotional journey from the walk out there to whatever it is, cold water, where you have to dig this thing out, and it takes you a day or an hour to do that, and digging with my hands and a stick, not I don't use shovels or anything. Um, it just means so much more to me because I love the idea of telling a story. And when the lift itself is the end of a story, to me that's far more beautiful than just walking out and everything being convenient. Because the reality is a parallel to life isn't convenient, most things. So you starting this YouTube channel, no one threw this in your lap. No one gave you the idea for the book and just wrote it for you, right? You had to grind on that. You had to work your butt off for this long time, and it's uncomfortable and it's challenging and it's scary oftentimes. So I think that lifting in general, exercise in general, but especially when you're outdoors, it really has parallels to life. And for me, that's the very meaningful part. That's why to me it's very beautiful and I love that. So I know that life is challenging. I've experienced that. We all have. So I love when I can kind of train for that with what I'm doing outdoors in the woods. So, but like last Monday, Bryce, Ed, and I got in extremely cold water. It was about 50 degrees outside, but that's the first really warmer day we've had in a long time, and that water has been frozen for months. And we were up to our neck in it. And normally when Bryce and I do that, if we get in deep water, so kind of our logic is if we're getting in really deep cold water, that'd be the last thing we do when we head out of the woods pretty quickly after that, just for safety's sake. Because I do think it's very good to push yourself hard in heat or cold within reason. It's got to be if you're not prepped for this and you're not used to doing things with really extreme temperatures, don't just go jump into something. Go gradually. But we were in this for an extremely long time, in and out, because there's a stone that Bryce and I and Ed want to lift within a year. It's way heavy, way heavier than we're capable of lifting right now. Like right now, we can all break it a bit off the ground. Bryce and Ed can get it higher than me. They're so strong. But I was like, well, what if we put it in the water? It'll make it lighter. So that was the logic as we put it out in this deep water and got changed out there into some shorts and that was rough. And actually, last week I told my wife when I got home that was one of the few times that you'll hear me say that I think I pushed a bit too hard with the cold. I actually went a bit too far on that. I had a fairly difficult time walking back to the car, and muscles kind of spasming up. So like a 2 hour hot bath and shower after that, and I was okay. But there is a fine line there, right? Of how much should you do, and again, the hardest part it's not just physical, but it really is that emotional process.
That hits home about the lift itself being a kind of journey. I've kind of been going through that with the high rep box squats, and I've been thinking
Yeah,
about how each one is kind of like a condensed journey where you go through different stages of uh, feeling like you can't make it through, and you have countless opportunities to just say, maybe I just won't do it today. And you push through, and every step you get closer, you feel at the same time like you're more exhausted, but also that you're more accomplished, and then eventually you make it and you finish the thing, and it's the greatest feeling in the world.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I completely agree with that. It's whenever the I think most people you talk to would tell you that the things that are given to us very quickly, wonderful. Like I love a gift. Goodness gracious, especially if it's right something from Jesus and from humans. I love it if it's desserts, some cookies or ice cream. But realistically, things that we have to really work for and you have to grind and it's painful and you have to sacrifice. When you get to the end, whether you accomplish a goal, you get a lift, you start a business, a relationship, whatever it is, like that is so powerful at that point. And if it was something that happened really quickly without any inconvenience, I don't think it would really be worth as much. Right. And when we're in that, it's hard to see. And so it's hard to or I shouldn't say it's hard to see. I think it's hard to appreciate that that something really, really good is happening here. I think that's hard to hold on to,
Yeah.
but if we can, and you get to that point where you see it kind of come together and you accomplish whatever you're trying to accomplish, that's a pretty special moment.
Yeah,
So
I like how you're able to combine that with actual heavy lifting, because that's something I've been struggling with. Is I'm kind of hooked on making it through such a long event, and with that comes you can't really lift the maximum amount of weight because you can't do that for a long time. So I like how you're connecting the actual experience of finding the stone and getting it ready to be lifted with the actual lifting of it, and that comes together to form something that's at least as meaningful, if not more meaningful, than if you just did like a straight set of strength endurance or something like that. I think that's I'm gonna have to use that.
yeah, it and on the physical part, digging the stone out, pulling it out of the creek, that is not easy work. I mean, you've got this
Yeah.
cold or whatever heat outside if it's really hot. If it's cold weather, you're in a cold creek. The current's pushing against you. There's sand in there, so your feet are sinking in. You're losing your balance. Grip work. You're trying to flip it towards you or away. Like it is a lot of work to move a stone or to build these things that I build out there for for squats, whatever it is. Like that, there really is a whole lot of work to do. Um, so I always use that as kind of the warm up. Like people are like, what do you do for biceps? And I mean, the whole thing is a process. But also like yesterday morning, I went and I did a stone lift early. So I was crossing the creek at 6:33 in the morning. It was pitch dark. I was by myself, very scared. Like that's it really is. That's something that if I had someone with me, it wouldn't be a big deal. Like I know everything's probably fine. I mean, the worst thing out there are a couple of coyotes. Like it's fine, but emotionally, I either when it's dark out, I'm again grown man. I still get like, oh, kind of it's a little scary when you're in the woods by yourself in the dark. Scary movies start to come true, but but it was so worth it. And multiple failures just got my tail handed to me yesterday because the stone was covered in ice. But the lift that I got it my last lift when I finally got it, it means so much more because of how much I had to do for that. Right, I had to get up when I could have slept in before church, but got up and went there and froze my butt off and failed multiple times. But when that final lift actually happens, it's so awesome. I, I
That's
wouldn't trade I wouldn't trade that for one that just went smoothly. Like I think oftentimes the ugly days, right, when things just don't go your way, it's some of the best training we have, whether it's in the gym or out in the woods. But when it's just those ones you have to grind on and it doesn't feel good, I think that's where we grow the most. I really do. And I mean we all know that, right? We grow and struggle. So when you can kind of not plan that, but when you can go out there and pursue the struggle and just embrace that, it's a wonderful thing.
I just wanted to ask you about the name lift stone not iron. Is that
Yeah.
just is that just a face value thing, like you lift stones rather than lifting iron, or does that have a deeper meaning? Because I've heard in I don't know how common this belief is, but some people seem to believe that the day we created weaponry from iron was the day we lost our connection to nature. And so the
Mm.
fact that you're out there lifting stones rather than iron in nature, I just wondered if it had anything deeper or if it was just kind of a face value.
Yeah, yeah. I've never heard that, but that's a brilliant saying. I really like that. Um, I mean, it's not a meaning that deep, but so when I first got on Instagram, I kind of did it like I don't know, because I had YouTube before, and then when I started my Instagram page a couple years ago, I was that's when I asked myself, can I do workouts only outdoors? Can I do strictly outdoors and never work out in the gym again? So I started this to kind of tell that story. And my first name, I'm still newish, right, to it. I'm learning. But my first name was something completely goofy. It was something along the lines of used to could do more. Like when I was younger, I could do more. And I didn't feel good about that. It was kind of cheesy. I've definitely got, a dad joke sense of humor. But once I started really putting effort and well, I always put effort, but when I started putting the videos up and pictures and stuff, I was like, man, this is meaningful to me. I want this to be something that's serious. My wife will tell you that she thought of the name. I will tell you that I thought of the name, Lipstone, not Iron. We were sitting in the car outside. My son swims. Our son he's a swimmer, and he was at swim practice at the Y, and we're sitting there, and I was uploading a video, and we were both like, well, we should change the name. And I think I said it. She said that she came up with it. So either way, collaborative effect or collaborative teamwork here. So whoever said it, she was like, "Well, that's what you should put because that's what you do, right? You lift stone, not iron. So that should be what it is." And I was surprised because I kind of hit click to register that, and it said that it wasn't taken. Nobody was using that, and that really sums up what I do. So
It's
yeah,
such a good
so
name.
appreciate it. I really do appreciate it. So I'm very happy that that was available and that works because that does kind of summarize what we do on the woods.
You've been training for a long time, and when you're out there in the woods, you're not always just. I've kind of touched on this briefly, but you're not always just lifting heavy stones or building things or whatever. You're also out there doing back bridges, climbing upside down on trees, doing these crazy feats of mobility, and you're still very strong. You've been training for so long. Do you have any secrets to your longevity, and what part do you think mobility plays in that? And if it's a big one, do you have any recommendations for enjoyable ways to build mobility? Because the thought of
Mm.
it of training for mobility is always kind of a boring thing. Like I just don't do it because it never sounds fun. But I know
Yeah.
it's got to be a big part of it. So just wondering your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think it seems like mobility, people either love it and do it all the time or they never do it. It seems like there's not a whole lot of in between. Um, for me, longevity is one. I think God's blessed me to do this. I'm very thankful. Um, I say variety. I think we do repetitive motion all the time. So when people go in the gym and they do the same thing, because there's only so many movements the human body can do, right? I mean, your elbow is not going to go through the front of your arm. If it does, that's a major problem.
Yeah.
Um, so for a long time, other than lifting stones, there's times where I will try really hard not to repeat a movement for an extremely long time. So even some of the things you've seen that I posted on Instagram when I'm doing, like a kip up or things in the trees, I try to do a different version of them every time I do them
Mhm.
because I really think we overdo the same things. And life is very repetitive, right? From picking up a bag of dog food to if someone's gardening, we do the same thing. So then you go in a gym and you do how many sets of tricep press downs or how many right? Tricep extensions, whether it's overhead, press down, kick back, whatever you're doing. It's like, well, you just did five versions of the same movement. Um, yeah, for me, mobility it's a big one, and you can see that right when you do stones and sandbags. If you don't have that hip mobility to get down low to sit that stone on your lap, you're going to be really limited what you can do.
Mhm.
Really limited. Um, Shoulder mobility, spinal extension, I mean, all that plays in big time. And along with being able to do the things I do outdoors, so being able to do what I do outdoors, I just enjoy feeling good. Like I like the fact that when I get up in the morning, I mean, I'm a little stiff, but through the day I feel really good. My body feels great, and I'm super thankful for that. I've only had one or two major. I ripped my bicep tendon off years ago when I was competing in strongman, had that reattached, and I tore something in my groin once. But for 33 years of training, that's not terrible. And lately with all the stone lifting I've done, ironically, I've never really hurt my back. I mean, I've strained muscles before, but natural stones are the one time that I think I actually feel healthiest when I'm outdoors. One, I think the fresh air helps. I think the uneven ground, the unsure footing, I think that really forces our body to function in the way that it should. Again, on pursuing comfort, I think we really do damage to ourselves by not putting ourselves out in situations like that. I think we soften our body, and as a result of that, I think injuries happen. Um, I know everybody probably wouldn't agree with that, but I really do. I think testing yourself with uncomfortable situations and just using, as far as to kind of jumping around, but as far as mobility, I've always been a huge believer in full range of motion. Partial reps irk me. I do not like them. Again, nothing against anyone who does partial reps or deadlifts or anything. For me, it feels like an incomplete story. It's like, why did, even in competition, when I would compete in strongman, sometimes an event would be an 18-inch deadlift. One, I was never great at deadlifting, but two, 18-inch, I'm like, why don't we just do it from the ground? Like, I would rather pull less weight and do it from the ground, or I'd rather lift a stone from the ground that's smaller than to have it up on something and just do a kind of a lockout with it. That seems to me just emotionally not good. It feels like I went out to do something and I only did it halfway. So I also full range of motion. It increases mobility and joints. It's a wonderful thing. So, I mean, every time you do an overhead press, you've got a good opportunity to get that extension, right? So kind of head through, arms back a little bit. So if people are just pressing real fast and they stop here, you're limiting yourself. I believe, I tell my clients, I think every movement, every exercise has potential for strength, for mobility, and for endurance, right? So, and even take a cardio exercise, like a conditioning thing, like a bear crawl. So if you're doing a bear crawl, certainly there's cardio there, right? There's some anaerobic and cardio there. But for strength, if you take and you really bend the elbows quite a bit more and bring the triceps in and chest and shoulders and keep the tension on the muscles instead of almost locking your arm out, there's great opportunity for strength there. You can go really slow, keep the back flat, right, and try to be very, very tight posture. And that is exhausting as far as strength training goes. And as far as flexibility, even on a bear crawl, if you take and you swing your leg up around and try to bring it to your hand, you're going to really stretch out the low back, the butt, and the hamstrings. So no matter what you're doing, whether it's a traditional lift in the gym, a cardio exercise, anything, there's certainly opportunity for mobility, for strength, and for cardio.
I think that's well said. I have to say the first time I saw you do a kip up, I was so surprised. It's such an impressive move. I saw you lifting the stones and everything, and then somehow you're just flying up off the ground. And it's like, wait a second. There's something to
The
this.
one last thing I would say on the mobility is I kind of thought of this as I was saying, describing the bear crawl. I think adding mobility work to the movements themselves, that can really cut down the boredom.
Yeah.
Because when you go to the gym and say, I'm just going to do mobility, sometimes it's that feeling. And if you can find a way to incorporate mobility literally into the movements, I think that's a fantastic way to be consistent in training mobility.
Would that be like instead of doing a lifting a stone from the ground, you might try to lift it when you're on a platform? Is that kind of what you
You
mean
would
by
dig out, yeah. I mean, if you're in the gym, play around with whatever you're doing, right? You would use in the gym, I would say do a dumbbell press instead of a barbell and sink nice and low as long as you're shoulder pain. Sink your squats low, stay down in the hole in the squat for a little while, do some deep breathing while you're down there. If you're doing a lunge, which I could do out in the woods, when you step out with that back leg when you're lunging and that back knee's down by the ground, if you squeeze that glute really hard, you're going to stretch out that hip flexor really well. So there's always opportunities to do that. But yeah, in the woods, if I wanted to work on that, I could use my hands to dig a hole in the sand and put the stone and do a deficit that way. So
that's
there's
cool.
there. Yeah, so there's all opportunities. I think one of the struggles that that I have, and probably a lot of people have, is when it's I'm just going to go to the gym to run. If you don't enjoy running, that's going to be burdensome. So if you
Yeah.
can make it either run outside, some type of fun challenge, bring some type of enjoyment into it. Like I know there's a there's a benefit to I just need to suck it up and do what needs to be done. And that's a real life thing sometimes, whether it's in the gym or whether it is whatever that you have to do in life. Um, there's also wisdom in trying to make whatever you need to do as enjoyable as possible. So if you don't enjoy doing mobility, find a way to incorporate it with something that you do enjoy. So if you can do it during the movement, or you can do it outdoors, or with somebody else, or whatever it is, and just try to find a way to make it tolerable. Because if it's something we truly don't enjoy, it's not going to last. Another thing is I did a stone yesterday, and Bryce and I did some really heavy, difficult ones today, which is normally not what I do. I normally don't do 2 days like that back to back.
Hmm.
The For me, one of the advantages of being out in the woods and having to dig things up, you know, break off a tree that's already dead and carry this and flip these logs over and do stones is almost, unless I do a single joint movement like the leg extension with the stone between my feet or something like that, almost every move is full body. So with what I did today, so today's Monday, so I won't do I won't do a lift again until probably Thursday or Saturday.
Okay.
So tomorrow will be stretching, some mobility, maybe the sauna. I got a pretty busy schedule tomorrow, but Wednesday would be either the sauna or a very, very gentle walk in the woods. So just a cardio hike, walk around, get some fresh air in the woods, probably take some pictures and see if I can see some deer or something.
Yeah.
Thursday, maybe a rest day or stretching. So the long-winded point here is the advantage of doing movements like that out in the woods is I don't feel the need to do 5 days a week in the gym. So when I know, again, coming from a background of bodybuilding, volume's a huge thing, right? So people do 16 to 20 sets sometimes for chest, and those are fantastic memories, and they're a blast. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I do think when you do a ton of volume over time, certainly with wear and tear, but you're also going to risk injury. And the same can be said about what we do with, with being outdoors and what we do. It's not as much volume, but the danger is certainly there. So there's
Oh
certainly
yeah.
a risk of injury with that as well. So kind of pick and choose what you want to do there. But when you do very full body moves and use the weather as part of your workout, the volume doesn't have to be near what you would think it needs to be, especially when talking traditional exercises in a gym. So I can get away with one or two lifts a week at most, and the rest of it is just cardio type things, either sauna or a hike outside where I'm just walking and doing hills out in the woods, or getting in a cold creek and letting that kind of challenge my body or doing something in the heat. But lifting is once or twice a week for me, max.
A lot of people on this channel are interested in building muscle, and I'm curious because you still obviously have a lot of muscle mass. I don't know if you've downsized at all, but do you feel like doing that low volume approach with a movement that's so difficult on the entire body, lifting a stone, a heavy stone, you feel like that's enough to help to maintain muscle mass or to even continue building it? And would you also say that maybe all of that extra stuff you're doing, the cold plunging and everything, maybe that's also muscle sparing too, and it's just telling your body, in addition to the stone lifting, like we need this muscle to keep going?
Yeah. Um, I don't think I'm going to gain a whole lot of muscle with the volume that I do. So very, very intense. I'm sure if I was doing bodybuilding type exercises in volume, and bodybuilders will tell you, people that are competing in bodybuilding will tell you that it is about aesthetics. It's not about performance, and it's about how you look and how big and how symmetrical you can be, how lean you can be. So Yeah, I don't think I'm going to put on a whole lot of muscle with the volume that I do. I do believe that it changes the quality of your muscle. I do. I've believed this for a very long time that when you lift very, very heavy weights, whether it's in the gym or out in the woods, I think the quality of the muscle, I think the muscle density is really extreme. So I would say that you're going to have a grainier look, like a really dense muscle look, as compared to if you're just pumping up your muscle in the gym and just going for aesthetics and not lifting very heavy.
Yeah,
I
that's
do.
a density is definitely something I've noticed too. I know a lot of people try to discredit it, but there is a difference in the way people
Oh,
look based on how they train.
for sure, absolutely, yeah. I do believe that. I do believe that the really cold times in the water out in the creek, it feels like I don't know if it does, but it feels like you go into a bit of survival mode. So it feels like your brain's telling your body like everything that is good, be it internal organs or muscle, like we need this. We need this to survive right now. I know it's a environment where my car is parked 15 minutes away and I'm safe, I'm okay. But when you're in that extreme situation, it really does fire everything up. So there's got to be, I think there's got to be a muscle sparing effect, certainly some fat burning, I believe. And same thing for the heat. I think that it allows and it encourages. I think it encourages everything in our system to work at its most effective and most efficient level. So I always tell people this. I've got a very blue collar understanding of how the body works. I have done this many years. So again, trained myself 33 years now. I've trained other people for 20 or 22 years. But I didn't go to school for this. I don't have a degree in this, a cheesy certification, but just a lot of experience in the gym with different types of people and learning how to communicate things. But so I can't tell you on a cellular level what's happening in your body when you're in really cold temperatures or in extreme heat. What I do know from experience is my body functions at its best when I subject it to really heavy, a lot of endurance, really cold, really hot, and I put good things in my body with food. And I certainly eat more donuts than I should, but in general, when you just give it all the different extremes, I think that encourages the body to function in a very, very cohesive way. And we just, what do I want to say with that? Yeah, I think it encourages the body to be efficient. And that's translated to daily life that you feel good. And what normally would tax you, whether it's working an 8 hour day or someone who's really struggling with, if there's someone who struggles with cardio health or with obesity, or if they're struggling with an illness or with cancer or something, and they do what they can do, whatever's appropriate for them in their life, if they test themselves in different ways, again within reason, I think it can take the things that were challenging, that maybe it's just carrying your groceries in from your car. When things like that become a little bit easier, to me that's a sign that the body's starting to work in a more efficient manner.
Do you have any advice for someone who maybe is looking to move away from traditional gym training and maybe get a bit more into what you're doing? Any advice, even if it's a small thing done within the gym, or even if it's just going out to take a walk? What would you recommend someone who wants to start making a change in that direction?
Yeah, no, that's great. I appreciate that question actually a lot. um, One, I would say, it's right, as cheesy as it sounds, literally just get outside and go for a walk. If you have somewhere that there's trails around you, I would just go walk. And I really do stand by this. I think some of the greatest questions we can ask ourselves with working out, especially out in the woods, is what if and why not? What if I try this? What if I pull this log over here? What if I want to build this thing, but it doesn't work well? There's also ones that keep you healthy. What if I get hurt out here? So
Yeah.
that's a fair question as well. And why not? Like, why should I not try this? I think this can be an adventure. So um I loved your video when you talked about being like a character, right? Like a superhero. Make it fun, truly make it fun. So I would say that when you first go out into the woods, it can be I don't know if scary is the right word. It can certainly be intimidating because you're out there and there's trees that are down, there's animals around, there may be a creek, it may be cold, it may be hot. I would say take a tree that's down or a limb. It doesn't have to be a big one, and grab it and drag it. Right? That mimics a sled drag in the gym. Maybe the next time drag it uphill.
Okay.
Maybe after that, find a muddy hill and try to do that. After that, put it on your back and carry it. It doesn't have to be monumental. It doesn't have to be this huge, massive weight or accomplishment. With stones, do some grip work. Literally try to pinch them and pick them up. If it's a flat one or a round one, it doesn't matter. Just play. It truly is. Like for me out there, it's play. I really, really believe that one of the things that ages us is we stop revisiting the experiences of our youth. And right now you have so many people. And again, I think there's times I don't want to push on this too much. I think there's times where like hormone replacement therapy, I think that's an appropriate thing sometimes. I think it's a lot of people are on it right now. But I think one of the greatest things, if you wanna feel stuff from your youth, revisit those experiences. Go outside, get cold, get hot, go play. Right? If you still need to go do what you need to do medically, then go do your thing. But don't skip the experience first. There's a lot that happens in your mind. There's a lot that happens in your body when you go out there and you do push and you do play and you experience. I keep saying that, but truly treat it like play. Go explore. When a kid walks into a room, it's an awesome thing to see. Hilarious. My hamstring just cramped up.
Oh, that feeling. That's exactly what I that's exactly what I think of when I see your videos. And I hadn't necessarily thought of a kid, but now that you mention it, that's exactly what it is. I can remember
Oh,
being a young kid, and you walk out into the forest and you see things that you would see things then that you don't see now. Like, oh, why not
yes.
pick that thing up? That's fun. Why not try to put it on top of that other thing? Why not try
Right.
to climb? And
And when kids even go into a playroom, a lot of times there aren't toys set up that here's the instructions. They just go, you let their imagination go. Just let it run. So I would say go out in the woods, start small, go enjoy being cold, enjoy being hot, sweat, look for discomfort within reason always. So don't go try to mimic something that you saw someone else do and go play. Honestly, just treat it like a playground. Have a great time and always obviously pursue safety. But I'd love to see more people out there using nature as a gym. I would absolutely love that. It's such a freeing thing, such a peaceful experience, and I would say that the results of that would certainly rival anything you can do in the gym, and that's from being a trainer for a very long time. The one exception to that would be bodybuilding. If you're looking just for aesthetics and putting on muscle, I don't think you're going to mimic that out in the woods. As much as I cherish my time out in nature, I don't think that if you're trying to go just for looks, as far as putting on size, that would be what you're going to accomplish out there. But everything else, I would put the results of that because the last thing I'll say, and I repeat this, but I can't emphasize enough how much the environment does as far as cold and hot. It really changes things. So if you want to do a moderate workout with resistance, but you want the workout to be really intense, use the cold, right? Use that really cold water, that cold temperature. Go out in the snow in your shorts and a tank top or no shirt on and spend an extended amount of time out there. So you can take a moderate weight, stone, log, whatever, walk in the woods. It can be very moderate, but it can be really intense if you go in extreme heat or extreme cold. Just make sure it's appropriate for where you are.
where can people find you on social media?
So where I put most of my work is on Instagram, and my Instagram name is Liftstone, not Iron.
Okay.
I do have a YouTube channel. It's just Mark Carpenter. The videos on Instagram are what really tell the story. So I'll show the setup, and maybe the hike out there and crossing the water and some failed attempts. And I really enjoy the ability to tell the story of what we're doing that day. And that's where I put most of my time and effort is on Instagram, lift stone, not iron.
Okay, I'll be sure to link that down below. For anyone watching, I highly recommend going to check it out. It's, even if you don't want to get out there and train in nature, it's very motivating to see someone else do it. And that's the type of stuff I watch before all my workouts, is Mark and Bryce out there lifting stones in the river, because it's just so motivating.